Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanande
Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanande
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shundravani Ashtatare Shatarine
Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shundravani Ashtatare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Can you see me, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, brilliant. You can see me? Everyone can see me?
This is watching him from here.
Okay.
I can't see you, but you can see me.
If you want to see, I'll come.
Yeah,
It's nice, you know, because you see we're all here and what we're trying to do is connect with one another. You know, sometimes we live in a society nowadays where people almost feel like it's like you're talking at someone rather than talking to someone. You know, so therefore the most important thing is actually connection. And connection can only be done when, you know, we're able to kind of see and communicate. So by the way, just to kind of give you a little bit of an update, this is not going to be a lecture or a class. So I may ask any of you a question, be prepared. But that's the most important thing, you know. They say that actually, when we're sitting in class, we're only able to remember 5% of what we hear. But actually, when we not only listen to class, but we're interactive, we ask questions, we raise our hands, we share, and we're able to kind of reveal our heart, then 95% of information is actually able to be remembered. And not just remembered, but transformed into wisdom. Because then you start to think, like, how is this relevant to my life? And I think that's one of the biggest things that people struggle with when they're reading the Bhagavad Gita. One of the most difficult things that people actually struggle with when they're reading the Bhagavad Gita is that there is no connection. People don't feel like they can relate to it. People don't feel like how is it 5,000 years ago? Wisdom relevant to my life today, you know? I go through so much complexity of life, so much conflict, so much tension. You know, Arjun's on the battlefield, but I'm at home trying to pay the bill. So therefore it's so important to actually read and ask, like, how is this relevant? And that can only be done in Sangha, in the association and with the interaction of devotees. But before I kind of go on to the talk, perhaps maybe an introduction. Otherwise you may all be thinking, like, what is this young boy doing in front of us? What is he talking about? What life experience and qualification does he have? But you know, the thing is that Siddhanta, the Shastra, Krishna consciousness is not based on one's age. It's not based on even one's material qualification. It's something much deeper than that. Because if you look at it, you know, the whole conversation between Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadeva Goswami, it's like, you know, what seemingly looked like the youngest person, the most unqualified person from our material perspective, was actually the one who revealed the whole Bhagavatam, spoke the whole Bhagavatam. So it's amazing, it's really incredible. So my name is Mahim. It's kind of a mouthful, so you can Mahim, but that's my name. And I've been living here at Bhaktivedanta Manor for the last five years, and it's really, really incredible. It's like I've developed such a soft heart, a very incredible affection for scriptures, for the Bhagavad Gita, because it's transformed my life. Prior to this, like, I was working in London. I grew up in Fulham, went to college, studied business administration and media, but nothing really resonated with me. And I found that, especially when I entered into the world of entrepreneurship, there was a lot of people that were materially successful, but spiritually dry. They were very, very unhappy. They say they had the gift of the gab. So if you did not have the wisdom and the knowledge, you'd be captivated by them. But if you actually looked into their eyes, you can see that they were seeking and searching, and no amount of Mercedes and, you know, Ferrari and money and skyscrapers, nothing would actually fill that vacuum. We're all actually a spiritual being having a physical experience of life. And when we understand that, then we actually come to the most beautiful understanding of, so then what is my purpose? And so I guess growing up around a lot of people that materially seem very successful but spiritually so dry made me question my own life. It made me question that, is this what I want to pursue for the rest of my life? You know, trying to be rich, trying to be successful, you know, trying to have everything in the world. Even like, what is it? Don't sell your soul for gold and silver. You know, wisdom is better than anything else, especially that wisdom that connects us with Krishna. So then that kind of made me embark on a journey. And so 5 years ago, I found Bhaktivedanta Manor by the grace of devotees. And I thought to myself, sign me up. Sign me up. So then I joined the ashram. I was living in the ashram for 3 years, and now for the last 2 years I've been doing corporate talks, university talks, trying to share this wisdom with people that really need it the most. They say that actually if you give someone just prasadam, they may be able to eat for a day. But if you teach people how to make prasadam themselves, then they can actually look after and take care of themselves. So that's what wisdom is, and that's what we're trying to do. So that's a little bit about myself. Is it you also want to introduce?
I think I would just add a little bit to what Mahim Prabhu said. But before I say that, I just want to say a massive thanks to all of you today for being here. None of this would have happened if you didn't make the effort. I mean, you weren't like my husband laying sleeping in the bed. You chose to be here. So let's give a big round of applause for all of you. Let's do 3 Haribols for you. Yeah? Haribol! 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 Actually, husband isn't sleeping at home. He's looking after the children. I'm sorry. I've got 2 mothers here, so I have to be very careful what I say. So thank you so much for being here. But I think I just want to add a little bit to what Mahim Prabhu said, if I may. So I got to know Mahim Prabhu maybe last year, and thank you to you, Hema Mataji, that I got to know Mahim Prabhu. We had more than 4-5 events just with HP itself, where Mahim Prabhu came and gave lots of wisdom. He came to work at the Bali. We had all the work people here. Thanks to you, James. I'm like, he is like on the plane now, already knows a lot more than me. So thank you for coming. So I've known Mahim Prabhu for 1 year, and it's just amazing. I mean, the wisdom I have got from him at this young age, how he inspires young people, how he motivates people, whether it's voluntary work coming here, whether it's understanding about the knowledge, it's just amazing. So I just want to say a massive thanks, Mahim Prabhu, for everything you do. And if anybody is more interested to bring your family here or bring anybody from your work here, I think I've already got 1 sign up. You're not going anywhere. There's only an entry, there is no exit. Sorry, Vinu. So, I mean, thank you, Mahim Prabhu, for everything you do. And there's much more to come. We're signing up for all the different corporate events. So thank you, Mahim Prabhu, for everything you do. Thank you. Thank you. And if this is possible, if we don't have our lovely, wonderful Matajis and Prabhujis who are in the back office, right? Like, the back office, when they're actually making sure everybody is on the Namrata, have you done this? Namrata, you haven't done this? I'm very lucky to have the spiritual mothers around me. So, Hema Mataji, if you want to come here, please, Mataji. I know you're always in the back office, but you do so much for me. I have 2 spiritual mothers, I say. I've got Hema Mataji, Sriji Kishori Mataji, please.
Before we start,
Yes.
Mataji, if Prabhuji could introduce you first.
Myself?
Yes.
I'm not that important, Prabhuji. I'm like most fallen soul in the world. Not me, Prabhuji.
No, actually, let's introduce you. Actually, this is the Vaishnav way also. This is actually what deepens friendship and relationship. But yeah, Namrata Mataji is you all know her, but she's so incredible. I met her. So yeah, Hemangi Mataji actually introduced me to her. Somehow we connected, but one thing that I really found astounding about her is just her dedication and her commitment to wanting to bring positivity, wisdom, and help people. Even in her work environment, it's like it's easier to actually preach in a temple, but when you're working and you hold such a high position where you're putting everything in stake to try and really bring about a consciousness and awareness about Krishna, that is outstanding. And that actually deserves a round of applause. It's like every time I talk to her, I just get inspired. I'm like, she's so visionary. I need to also become visionary like her. So thank you so much for actually inspiring all of us in everything that you do. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to more cooperation and just also deepening Vaishnav relationship also. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
You're very kind, Prabhuji. I know how fallen I am. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. I'm very thankful. So I think, Hema Mataji, how wonderful it will be if you introduce Sriji Kishori Mataji and Sriji Kishori Mataji introduces you. Yeah? That's okay. Let's get Sriji. Why don't we introduce ourselves if we want? That's okay. We can introduce ourselves. I think let's do that. Mataji, why don't you go first? Yeah. As to introduce yourself, how you came into Krishna consciousness and how Krishna consciousness helped you, if that's
Yes.
okay.
I've
Thank you.
had a brief write-up here, so if you don't mind, I'm going to read it. First of all, Hare Krishna to you all. So nice to see you and have your association. Such a privilege to have you all come here today. It's really nice. So, a bit about my background. My background, in my youth, my family took us to the Krishna temple in Malaysia. And Mum took my sister and me to hear Srila Prabhupada's lecture in a hall in Penang, where I come from. This is going back to 1972, so I'm giving my age away here. I was in my 20s then. And after the lecture, I had the enormous privilege of paying my humble obeisances at Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. As you know, Srila Prabhupada is the founder Acharya of ISKCON. So I feel very privileged to have met him and paid my obeisances at his lotus feet. So that really started my journey into Krishna consciousness. It aroused my curiosity. I wanted to know more and more. Obviously, as a Punjabi family, we knew who Krishna was and Radharani and all the deities, but to delve a bit deeper into who is Krishna? What is he all about? Why is there so much love for him? So then I came to England in 1973, and in those days we did not have the Soho Street Temple that we have now. So I used to go to the Berry Street Temple, and it was a small hall, but it was lovely. We used to do kirtan there and meet lots of devotees there. And I used to participate in a lot of the Ratha Yatras in London and elsewhere. And I also went with Bhakti Charuswami, His Holiness Bhakti Charuswami, on yatras in India. We went to all the different dhams. That was also very spiritual. If you've not been on a dham or a Ratha Yatra journey, please do go, because there are lots lined up in the next few weeks and months in and around London and the whole of UK. It'll be really nice, a nice day's outing. So I've been with the manor from the early 80s. My husband Sham and I, we used to bring our boys here from the 80s. And so I've been with this this establishment from the 80s. And I've continued coming here regularly. And there's nothing like it. You know, once you come here, you get lost. And it's so spiritual and blissful. It's nice to be here. I hope you'll all come regularly, as often as you can.
No pressure.
No pressure, but it would be nice. In those days I used to work, I had two of my work colleagues here, we used to work together, Naina and Kailash. We used to work for the DWP, and I managed to combine my professional life with my spiritual life. It can be done, so I would encourage you to do it. Sometimes we tend to say, oh no, I'm very busy, I've got too much this and that to do, but believe me, it can be done. You put your heart, mind and soul to your spiritual aspect as well, and you'll be amazed how much you can achieve. I was initiated by His Holiness Kadamba Swami Maharaj 2 years ago, coming up to 2 years now. And people do ask me, what does it feel like to be initiated, you know, to be given this mala, three strands of Tulsi mala here. And I have just one sentence to say: I feel rejuvenated. I feel like I've been born again. And I'm sure those of us who have been initiated, we feel the same way. It's a new life, it's a new existence. And I tend to leave my previous life aside, although it is important to me, but it's not as important as my spiritual life now. I feel relaxed, I feel calm, I'm able to cope with different situations. So you find that as time goes on. So that's what I would like to say about the combination of my work life, my home life, my spiritual life. And I just pray every day that Krishna will empower me, energize me to become more and more spiritual. Because I'm now at an age where I know, you know, my time on this planet is limited. And I need to secure my future life. Where would I like to be in my next life? You know, we often have lectures, we don't want to be born again in this life. Thank God we were born in a nice family. But we really don't want to be born again and go through all, you know, what we've been through, or what I've been through. Not that it was bad or anything like that, but still, I'm trying to elevate myself. So this is what I'm trying to do. And thank you so much for listening to me.
Hare Krishna everyone, and just so nice to meet Namrata Mataji's friends and family and Shiji Kishori Mataji's work colleagues. Thank you all for coming on Saturday morning. My name is Hemangi Radha, and I started my spiritual journey not as far back as Mataji, but about 15 years ago. And I just had this desire to read Bhagavad Gita because my dad had given it to me years ago, said read it, and it lied on my shelf for a long, long time. And then one time I just had that deep desire and I connected to the right person, my first Shiksha Guru, Leela Shakti Mataji, and immediately started Sangha in my house, inviting my friends and wanting to learn and helping them to understand Bhagavad Gita. So we ran the Sangha for 3 years almost, and that's how my journey started. And at the time, Leela Shakti Mataji said, chant this mantra, and I would say, I don't have the time. I had young children, job, everything, and Leela Shakti Mataji said, no, at least chant even while you're driving to work. So I used to drive from here to Stevenage, chant. And then I sort of developed a taste for chanting. I thought I can't just drive and chant because I'm not focusing. I'm hearing it, but I'm not focusing on my chanting. So that's when I started waking up early in the morning. And I cannot believe myself still now that I can actually wake up in the morning and spend 2 hours chanting. Because it gives me the vitality of my life every single day. Every single day is different. Every single day it gives me this bubble around me where all the positive energy that the Mahamantra gives me stays inside, and it protects me from all the negative energies that are around me. And now that, as Mataji said, I'm initiated, and my Guru Maharaj is His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, and I was initiated last year, and holding the beads that he has chanted on, that just revitalizes me every morning. I think I'm not deserving of all this mercy that has come my way, but that's because of all the devotees that I've associated with. Mahim Prabhu has always inspiring me and sort of giving me all these little nuggets that I take with me in my life and apply them. And Namrata Mataji, Shiji Kishori, so many beautiful devotees that I've got. And that's only through association that you can understand the meaning and the importance and the potency of the Mahamantra. Unless if you do it on your own, then you don't understand. You don't get the full benefit of chanting the Mahamantra. So yeah, my background is I'm a professional, NHS professional. And I'm so glad that I'm not working anymore. And at the time I was working, that's the plan. At the time I was working and juggling with family life, professional life, and spiritual life. But it's worth trying, definitely worth trying.
Wonderful, Mataji.
Just one thing, she's not working now, materially, but she's actually working for Krishna.
I was going to add that.
So she actually does one of the most fundamentally important service here at Bhaktivedanta Manor, because many people, they join the temple, they give their life to the temple, but then I'm sure many of you have heard this thing called old age, right? So people kind of grow to a certain age and they're unable to actually have the ability to look after themselves, to take care of themselves. So she actually does one of the most important service. She has a group of devotees and they actually go out to these elderly people, sick people, diseased people, and then takes care of them, gives them prasadam, someone just to talk to listen. So what better work is there than that? So thank you so much.
We're on time. We've actually got 4 minutes. Can I use it, Prabhuji? Is that okay? So I think Mataji, I just want to add as well, because Mataji does, both Matajis and Mamta Mataji here, they all, Prabhujis as well, they do a wonderful, like I said, back office thing. And what I mean by that is, every single day, there is a group call where they talk about Bhagavad Gita. So we read Bhagavad Gita. That's how I came in contact, Chad group. And it's amazing how much Shiji Kishori Mataji does, where she makes sure every single day, making sure that there are somebody's presenting on the group, recording the thing, making sure that the bhajans happens on time. Every single thing, like regimental. So, which is great, Mataji, also keeps me on my toes. Have you contacted the bhajan people? Thank you, Mataji. I'm so glad that you do keep me on my toes. But not only does the work, but gives an opportunity to everybody. Because when you're doing in material world, if you do something great, you just want to get all the credit, don't you? When spiritual world is different. because you want to give the credit. So Mataji, both Matajis, they all want to give me the credit and say, you go and do, you talk about it. So it's amazing for aspiring devotees like me who's been in Krishna consciousness after my dad passed away in 2020, when I realized what is the purpose of life. Since then, I'm so lucky that both Mataji contacted me themselves. I mean, I'm so thankful, Mataji, and grateful that you came in my life. I always say to my mom back home in India that you there, I've got two Matajis and mothers here. So thank you for being in my life, Mataji. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Mataji. One more thing, Prabhu, I've got 3 minutes. You're in now. There is no exit door. Yeah? So when you come in, you're in. Prabhuji, close your, everybody, Prabhujis and Matajis, close your ears. You know, in a bit of a criminal world, when you go in, you can't come out. That's what spiritual world is. So when you're in, you can't come out. So when my best friend calls me and says, we're going to go out in December to London, I'm like, my mind thinks, which temple am I going to go to? So you're in now. So only thing you think about is, how am I going to go to Krishna? She wanted to go to London. I'm like, no, I didn't hear that. I only heard she wanted to go to the London temple. Say this. So whatever you do, you're in now. You just can't get out of here. So choose if you want to be in. If you want to be in, there is no exit door. The main thing that I'm going to say is, and you can stop, mummies, don't tell me off please afterwards, yeah? You stop fighting with your husband. Now that's the basis of a woman, right? Like, come on, we get married to fight with our husband, right? So you choose not to fight with him because my 20 minutes would be wasted. I could read Bhagavad Gita instead, right? So now you're in. So you choose. If you're in, you're in. You can't get out, okay? So you're in today, right? Not wasting time with my husband arguing. I'm going to read my Bhagavad Gita. That's all I wanted to say, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Let's start the journey.
Our friends know what she's saying.
Can I just add something else? Navrata Mataji mentioned earlier on about recitation of verses, Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam. So if any of you are interested in reading the verses in either Sanskrit or in English, please do contact me. I'll leave my details. Or any of you would like to sing a bhajan, we do have weekly bhajan sessions, simple bhajans to please, I just wanted to mention that. Well, all welcome to join. Hare Krishna.
On time, Prabhu. Your time now.
It's our time. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Kashishna Deshatarine. So we're just going to kind of go through a discourse. It's very interactive. You can ask any question. But one thing that I want to kind of just give a disclaimer before we begin is that whatever I'm about to share is actually only by the prayers and the blessings of my spiritual teacher and his spiritual teacher, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So please, by no means, there's nothing great about me. Actually, the greatness is this wonderful personality here, Srila Prabhupada. And I'm just kind of repeating everything that I've learned from him. Thank you so much. So today's session is called Life Management. I'm sure each one of us, we struggle. We're juggling so many responsibilities in life, looking after children, taking care of our relationship, taking care of our career. Life is like a juggle. The thing is that the secret is that we can actually manage our life when we actually have the correct understanding. But often what it is that life becomes overwhelming. There's a saying that we don't see the world as it is, but we see the world as we are. So similarly, we see the struggles not as it's supposed to be seen, but as we are. Struggles can actually be an opportunity for growth. Struggles can actually be an opportunity for learning. Struggle can actually be an opportunity to deepen our character, our core being of who we are. And that actually begins with wearing the lenses of Shastra, of Siddhanta. And so today what we're going to do is that I want you to reflect on different areas of your life right now where you're perhaps struggling to manage. You're kind of somewhat like, it's difficult, it's overwhelming. Like, and sometimes our problem feels like we want to run away from them, just like Arjuna. Arjuna, he had the greatest responsibility, the greatest conflict, and he did not know how to address it. But did that mean that he had to run away from it? No. Instead, what he did is he took the opportunity to pause. You don't have to make fast decisions in life. You don't have to make quick decisions in life. Sometimes there is power in pause. There is power in reflection. And there is a power in actually seeing, okay, where do I go now? It is said that difficult decisions becomes hard to live with, but hard decision later on becomes easier to live with. But that requires something very powerful and important. So now I have a question for all of you to think about. What would you say is the most important relationship in your life?
With my daughter.
Your daughter. Thank you so much for sharing that. Anyone else? Don't be shy. We're all a family here. And the more I get from you, then the more I can also give back. Please.
I think with my husband.
The husband. Okay, just shout out. You don't have to raise your hand.
With myself.
With yourself. Okay.
With the parents.
With
Parents.
parents. Okay. Anyone else?
With my father.
Grandchildren. Okay. So everyone is given. This is the beauty. You know, they say that. What is it? Difference. What is it? It's like variety is the spice of life. So you all gave so many wonderful answers, but one that I really resonate with a lot is actually what James mentioned. Actually, the most important relationship is the relationship with yourself. It's interesting because the relationship with yourself is so important that actually, if you don't connect with yourself, if you don't check in with yourself on a regular day-to-day basis, you can even turn against Krishna. I was actually reflecting on that recently. We say that the relationship that I have with Krishna is the most important, and yes, it is. But if you're not in alignment with your mind, your spirit, who you are, then what it is that you may even feel like Krishna is against me. Krishna doesn't love me. Krishna doesn't care about me. So the biggest disease, the biggest obstruction of love is insecurity. Is the inability to be able to check in with ourselves, the inability to be able to love how we are, who we are. There's so much gift and blessing in that. But the problem, I repeat, what does Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita? To control the mind is as difficult as to control the wind. So the biggest problem, the biggest conflict actually is that we're afraid of checking in with ourselves because we're afraid of seeing what there is that we need to resolve in life. It's like, imagine going into a room that you haven't actually checked for a very, very long time. And now your job is to clean the room. It's difficult, right? Because you may find things that you may not necessarily be anticipating. Things that you may not want to find. And that's what you call anartha nivriti. Spiritual life, Krishna gives you ruchi. He gives you taste. He gives you an experience like, that's amazing. You hear everything that you've always needed to hear in order to begin your spiritual journey. And you've got a mentor, a guide, someone to hold your hand. But at some point, what you realize is that there are things in this world that you have to do on your own. A mentor is there to guide you. A mentor is there to give you the advice and the guidance of whatever it is that you need. But they can't make you walk if you don't want to walk. They can't make you change if you don't want to change. So actually, change must begin from within. And when that change, we start from within, then we actually learn how to navigate, how to manage, and not just manage, how to thrive in our life. Krishna doesn't say in the Bhagavad Gita that he wants you to manage your life. But Krishna is actually trying to tell you that this is your Sanatana Dharma. And you can marry your Sanatana Dharma with your Svar Dharma, your material responsibilities. And so therefore you always have a foundation, and that foundation can help you to elevate your consciousness. It is said that public leadership starts from personal leadership. When we actually work on ourselves and we work on the areas of our life that we find to be difficult, that actually is the foundation for success, spiritual success. So actually, yes, you're all right. Every relationship is important, but the relationship that you have with yourself is very important. Because that is your break or make. So you can see family, friends, teachers, all of them is important. Krishna, it's all important, but it must begin from you. Why is that? Why is the relationship with us so important? Because what it is that, and believe you me, we've all experienced this, even Arjuna has experienced this, that in our life, all these, there's a saying, and it's really interesting that, I am not who I think I am not who you think I am who I think you think I am. So we live in a perception of an illusion. And the problem with that is that if our standard, if who we are is dependent on being liked, on being respected and being appreciated, there will come a point in your life that you will come across people that may disappoint you. And then what happens? Disappointment leads to lamentation. And then what does lamentation lead to in the Bhagavad Gita? Loss of intelligence. And then you actually forget what the purpose of life is. You begin to think that the purpose of life is actually to make others happy. But what you don't realize is that those people are just the twigs, the leaves, the trees. But if you please Krishna, then actually your life becomes a perfection. So you'll experience disappointment. Not just disappointment, pressure. There's this thing called a happiness fallacy. We think that if we meet certain people and they tick our criteria, our boxes of what it means to have a good relationship, and then we'll be happy. But that's not the case. No one can fill the vacuum in your heart. It's like when you go to the temple, there's actually an altar. But then there's also an altar in your heart. But the only difference is that there's actually someone who's worshipping an altar there, but the altar in your heart is completely vacant. There's actually nobody worshipping Krishna in your heart. So therefore, it's so important to check in with yourself, to actually work on the altar of your heart, decorate it, garland it, ornament it, and do everything that you can within your ability. And then therefore, what it is that you won't experience pressure in the way that we often do in the world today. It is said that actually 50 years ago, the biggest problem for teenagers were chewing gum, talking in class, and cheating on exam. 50 years later today, the biggest issues that people are struggling with is teenage pregnancy, bullying, and suicide. And this is because people don't know who they are. They don't know. So we must get to know. So like I said, global revolution begins with personal resolution. It is actually within our interest. When we see the world and the conflict that there are in the world, it is within our best of interest that we want to make a difference. Because remember, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that there is nothing more sublime than the soul. It is the most beautiful. And not only the soul, there is nothing as sublime as transcendental knowledge. Krishna says that. Actually it is said here that all other type of knowledge, yes, we need it, it's important, but if we make the goal of our life just trying to learn the knowledge of this world, is like a crematorium. It's like, it may benefit you in this existence, but what about the rest of the existence? So it's important, yes, learn about algebra, learn about maths, learn about science, but actually I think in school there should be a department where you learn about yourself. Because if you don't learn about yourself, you are going to grow up confused, you are going to grow up abused, and you're going to grow up used. And you will.
Can I add to this? Now, as the world is developing, and you said, sorry, I'm a primary school teacher, and we have what we call as a study area called growth mindsets. And it's all about saying the inner self and looking and telling yourself how good you are. So when they are developing, they realize it doesn't matter what the other thinks of you. If you think yourself to be who you are, that clears it all. So it's at a very early primary stage that we are developing this. And it's a huge subject for me.
No, definitely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Definitely. And it's like when you know who you are, then you know what your priorities are. And you know how to manage your time better. So it's so important. Why do you think that people have this kind of inability to be able to control themselves when they hear the phone go, like notifications? It's like such an automatic thing that I have to check my email, I have to check my WhatsApp. It comes from that feeling like I need validation. I need validation. I need some sort. It's like you almost get a sense gratification out of it. But actually, if you know who you are, and you know how to, then you know what your priorities are, then you know how to manage the tools, the gadgets, and your time. So it all begins with you. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Sorry, can I just check on the validation part? So when Arjun was lost in the battlefield, all he needed was validation to start with. Am I doing the right thing? So it started off from there. So I think it's not just a new concept. It's something which is an in-depth human nature. We're all looking for validation, whether it is from your daughter, your husband, your family, your workplace. As soon as you say well done, you're like, okay, I've done it. So that is something which is going to be very hard to overcome, because validation is something where everybody is seeking.
They are seeking, but ultimately what it is that actually people are seeking for something even more than that, which is a relationship with Krishna. So what it is that we are seeking validations, and we may experience validation. And I think Patri Prabhu gave this very beautiful example. It's like, it's a very gruesome kind of imagery, but imagine someone kind of ties you in a chair, and then they kind of put your head in an ocean and you can't breathe, like you need to breathe. And then when they take you out, you gasp for breath. So that little relief is that validation you experience that you get. Validations is like you may meet people in your life and they may validate you, but remember, relationships changes, people change, expectations change, so many things change. But can I ask you a question? Even though you've turned away from him for many, many lifetimes, has Krishna's relationship with you changed? No.
I think then you have to be at that level of spiritual journey to be that.
But Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, that I am actually the source of remembrance and forgetfulness, that I am actually sitting in your heart and I'm just waiting for you to turn to me. So actually, and it's interesting because Lord Chaitanya, there's a particular pastime where there was one Brahmana and he couldn't read, he was illiterate. And so what had happened was, if you're familiar with Lord Chaitanya came and you could see all these Brahmanas were laughing at this one illiterate person. And so then Lord Chaitanya went to that one person and it's like, what are you crying about? He's like, well, my guru gave me the instruction to read the Bhagavad Gita and I can't seem to read it because I'm illiterate. But when I look at the picture of Krishna and Arjuna, and I think to myself that Krishna is the most amazing person. Because even though he took the role of a chariot driver, and a chariot driver is someone like that gets kicked around, like go this way, that there's no time to shout. There's no time to go right or left. Sometimes you just have to kind of kick them just to kind of give them the signal. So then this Brahmin said, Krishna is amazing. It's like he may not have been able to read, he may not have been able to understand Siddhanta or Shastra, but that emotion. So they say the anurag is more important than rag. It's not just about your knowledge, but it's actually the realization. And that realization is actually accessible for everyone. Don't think that just because someone lives in a temple that they're more advanced than you. Actually, if you look at Lord Chaitanya, a lot of his associates, they were all grihastas. So many of his associates were grihastas. And yet also, if you look at the history of spirituality, spiritual communities, sometimes the most advanced in our material eyes, the ones that seem like they're doing amazing things, are the ones that actually fall short. So actually, your devotion, your transformation is more important than your position.
Can I add to that? Based on personal experience. So, validation, I know when I was young, I needed validation all the time. How I look, what I do, everything needed validation. But since I started chanting, there's this inner self that's giving you that validation. And I can't explain it. Unless you start chanting, you know that you're getting, then you're not looking for external validations at all.
Definitely.
Because then what happens is you're chanting, you're beginning to understand your within, you are beginning to love the one that's within, you're beginning to love yourself. And because when you start loving yourself, you don't need other people's validation.
Actually.
Yeah, do not just add about the validation thing. Because you're already telling, validating, I need to validate it to yourself, because you're already setting up the standard over there.
Yeah.
So when you don't say that, you start from scratch, that I'm no one. And then you start thinking, then you might feel, because you're already
Humility.
Yeah, but you already put the goal over there, isn't it? Right? That's the target for me, that somebody has to validate me. You don't need anybody to validate you at all. So,
But is it all a practice, isn't it? I'm feeling.
It's practice.
Yeah.
It's actually so it's time. Actually, you know, it's not just time, something
Again,
interesting.
I'm feeling that you're already setting up the goals over there.
Yeah.
You're telling yourself it's time. You're telling yourself it is practice. So don't
Just do
just keep it an open canvas
Mm.
and see how things will change.
Mm.
Because by telling things, you're already telling your mind that is the goal I have to achieve.
Mm.
Isn't it? I feel like if everybody has Krishna in them,
Mm.
isn't it? Everybody has Krishna in them, and the time will come when they will realize, yes, this is the thing. Some people might take a bit longer, some people might take a bit. You're right.
But yeah, one thing I was going to add to that, I was just trying to track my thoughts, was the difference between loneliness and solitude. So that's the other thing. It's that it's not just time or stuff like that, like what you mentioned, Mataji, I agree with you, but it's also taking time to spend with yourself. Because actually when you take time, and this is what it is actually, if you look at our society today, and I was actually speaking to a friend of mine the other day, people are so afraid to actually spend time on their own. And because they're so afraid to spend time on their own, all they hear is the noises of the outside world. You should do this, you should do that. What do you do with your life? Why can't you manage this? Why? And so then it's almost like, you know, the volume of the outer world is so loud that you can't hear your inner volume, which is so low. And so we have to actually contextualize, and we have to actually establish within our mind that it's okay to spend time on your own. You're not missing anything if you don't go to that Sangita or whatever, you go to that wedding, or you go to this, you go to that, this function. There'll be so many functions in life that, you know, it's like you're never going to miss anything, but you need to spend time on your own.
That's why when I was working, once a month, our head office used to send us an email saying, have your me time.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
This is most important. You are working full time, day in and out, but find your me time to do something for yourself. That makes you even better following day, and you feel good about yourself.
Definitely. Thank you so much for sharing. So yeah, so that's so important, and that's why actually, if you look at even Arjun's predicament, the reason why he felt so stuck was actually for 3 reasons. First of all, the reason why that we experience stress and stuckness in our life is one of the reasons why is because we often tell ourselves, I'm too busy. But have you actually ever noticed that you're never busy for the thing that brings you sense gratification, but you are busy for the things that can actually help you in your life? You know, it's like when someone says to you, hey, come, let's read the Bhagavad Gita. Oh, no, Prabhu, I'm just busy. You know, hey, come, let's sit down and get to know each other. No, I'm too busy right now. Sorry, I've got to go work. But then when someone says to you, hey, come, let's Netflix and binge and watch this and that, yes, let's go for it. It's like suddenly, where did you find the time to do that? So actually, everything is down to perception. Everything is down to value. Everything is down to priority. And often what it is that we keep telling ourselves we're too busy for the things that can help us, but we have all the time in the world for the things that are destroying us. And destruction doesn't happen overnight. It happens in the accumulation of time. Yeah, 5 minutes becomes 10. 10 becomes an hour becomes 5 hours, and before you know it, where did the time go? And it is said that people that waste their time, the sun always sets with them. But for those that actually engage in spirituality, the sun never sets on them. They're always alive, they never die. So actually time flows where your energy focus goes. And if your energy focus goes in wasting time, then you're wasting your lifespan. So it's so important. The question you've got to ask yourself is, what is my priority in life? And not just priority, I'm way too comfortable, I don't want to change. They say that actually the biggest fear, one of the biggest fear in the world is public speaking. People are actually scared of public speaking more than they're afraid of death. And that's true. So people are more afraid of humiliation than actually learning, growing, experiencing, living. So rather than exist. So comfort is another thing that can obstruct you from vidya, from knowledge, from wisdom. And pride. They say that the most dangerous statement in the English language is, I already know this. Have you ever sat in a class and you're listening to someone like, I've already heard this? You know, they say that actually the more you learn, the more you know that you know less. But the more you learn and the more you think you know more, the less you know. So actually real humility is understanding that in life you will always play the role of a teacher and a student. It's not that in life there is a graduation point where it's like, now I'm the teacher, I don't have to learn anything. That's where pride comes in. And so they say humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking less about yourself. And when we do that, then we can actually learn. Then we can ask the important questions of life. Who am I? What is my purpose? What is my goal? What am I supposed to do with life? But up until the point, if you're arrogant, or you're too proud, or you're too busy, or you're too comfortable, you'll never find time. Time is created based on mindset and mentality. How can you manage your life? You can manage your life by starting to manage the thoughts. What's going on in here and what's going on in there. Wherever the heart goes, the body follows. Remember that. So it's not like your heart has certain urge and desires, but it's like, no, I'm just, whatever you meditate on, whatever you keep contemplating on, that sense of object that you contemplate on becomes an obsession. So actually, urge is just few letters away from urgency. And Krishna isn't saying, so, it's like sometimes families, they get really afraid. Parents, children, they get really afraid. It's like, no, I don't want my children to become too spiritual. I don't want to be too spiritual. If I become too spiritual, then I'm going to lose interest for life. I won't be able to be materially successful. No, that's not necessarily the case. Actually, what it is that spirituality is the most important living in this world, because it's actually the basis, the foundation of real success. And that's the most important thing. If you look at the world today, I just want you to think, we're actually like a spiritual scientist. So let's do like a little experiment here. Think of anyone and everyone that you think is successful, or you thought that was successful. Like, I know when I was growing up, I saw these amazing humanitarian rappers, musicians, artists, but because they had no foundation of spirituality, they either got busted or caught up in trafficking, in money laundering, in some sort of like really horrible case. And you think to yourself, like, these people, what happened? I thought they were good. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that actually the only kind of goodness is actually purity. Even mode of goodness is within the material sphere, is the material realm. You may think, yes, Prabhuji, Mataji, I'm coming to the temple, I'm praying to Krishna, I'm reading one shloka of Bhagavad Gita, and all that is important. But actually what it is that our personal relationship with Krishna is the most important thing also. Because you could do things and you could do it within a mode of goodness, but then what's the symptom? Pride. It's so easy to be proud. Even now, every day, I have to go within myself and I have to keep reminding myself, this ability, this facility, these resources, is all being given by Krishna. And if I get arrogant, if I get proud, then it can easily be taken away from me. There's instant karma, and then there's delayed karma. So it only takes few thoughts, and those few thoughts can actually shift your entire consciousness. So we have to be grateful, we have to be humble, and we have to realize that my ability is not my ability, but it's actually the ability of the Supreme Divinity. We're all part and parcel. Prabhupada calls it this is a playground and everyone is trying to play small gods. We're all trying to play small god in this world. Someone came to me yesterday actually, and said to me, yeah, we're all God. Okay. We're all God. But actually, no. We're jivas. Without the sanction of Krishna, we cannot accomplish anything. So everything that we're actually achieving is because of the sanction of Krishna. Can you explain why sometimes people are born into this world and they have nothing, but they have such beautiful character, such a wonderful quality within them, and such faith and then they go on to do an amazing thing. But then at the same time, you have people that are born into this world, they have everything, but then they lose it. So this is Krishna's mercy. So therefore, what I'm trying to say right now is like life management begins from personal management. Management of our thoughts, management of the desires, the urge that actually flows within our heart. And that actually starts from guidance. It is said that actually the Bhagavad Gita, if you look at it, if there was no guidance, it would only cause about more confusion and insecurity in life. And then what will that lead to? That will lead to existential crisis. Nowadays, people have to change their career 4, 5, 6, 7 times because they just don't know what the hell they're doing or who they are. You know, and then what happens is that most times, like I've changed my job 9 times myself. That's how confused I was about life. And then what happens is by the end of it all, you're just depressed. So what am I doing? I don't want to work for a system. I don't want to do this. There's a quote that says, people die at the age of 25 and are buried at the age of 75. What does that mean? It means that at a certain age, people just lose their curiosity for life. They lose their enthusiasm to find purpose and meaning. And then by the age of 75, they're retired and now they actually don't have the energy. When you're young, you have time and you have energy, but you have no money. When you're in your middle age, you have money and you have energy, but you have no time. And when you're in your old age, you have time, you have money, but you have no energy. So Krishna is trying to say, you need the right guidance. The earlier, the better. So therefore, when you can do that, then you can develop clarity, you can develop purpose in your life. And you can find out what is the sambandha, what is the purpose of life, what is the goal of life. And that is what leads to happiness.
What does Sanatan Dharma means?
Sanatan Dharma in Sanskrit can be translated as many variety things. It can be translated as purpose. It can be translated as nature, the nature of who you are, your purpose. But yeah, nature is a good way of describing it. What is what is your nature? Your nature is to be a loving person and to lovingly serve Krishna. That is the nature of who you are. Just like the nature, Prabhupada was once walking, and that's your eternal. So yeah, that is your eternal constitutional position to lovingly serve Krishna. So it's like Prabhupada was actually once walking, and he saw like a little screw, and the little screw was on the floor. And Prabhupada is amazing because anything and everything he sees, he can add meaning to it. And he said that actually that screw was once actually living a sublime life because it was actually serving the purpose that it was supposed to serve, which was to be screwed onto something. But now it's just on the floor. And that is our position. Imagine if everyone could just wake up one day and be like, my nature is to lovingly serve Krishna without wanting anything in return. Life would be beautiful. But in the Nectar in the Sri Upanishad, what it is that Prabhupada gives the example of the pigeon, the different animals that come and then they take a little bit of grain, but then human beings come and they take everything. They hoard. We're all hoarded. But it is said that in this world there is enough for your need. Krishna has given you enough in order to be able to serve him comfortably, but there's not enough for your greed.
And Seva Dharma is when you're serving somebody.
Yeah, to serve. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, like I said to you, spirituality is not about just like isolating yourself from material responsibility. We live in a world today where people think spirituality is let me go to the Hawaii or the Bahamas, pay a couple of thousands of pounds and do some meditation and just completely disconnect from reality. But then we call that delusional. People are like that. There's so many delusional people. And then because they get a bad taste of spirituality, then they actually never explore the real spirituality. A real spirituality actually means that you find the tools and the equipment to be able to be a mother, to be able to be a good son, a good husband, whatever it is, to live life. So you don't live life by isolating yourself from responsibility. Because then, what do you become? You just become a jnani. You become too knowledgeable, too scholarly, but hard-hearted. But at the same time, there's others in the world here where they're just so materially absorbed, and they're so just absorbed in actions. So like Eshamaj was saying today, that you need the hand, you need the head, but ultimately you need the heart. If you're just always engaged in activities, then what it is that you'll always be attached to the result. If you're just too attached to destiny, then you're going to be lazy. But you need to find the middle balance. That means I must do my work, but I must leave the result to Krishna. And when you can do that, then you actually live a balanced life. So therefore, spirituality means to find that balance, to find that point of I must do my responsibility and my work in this world, but ultimately the destiny is down to what we call karma. To Krishna ultimately, but karma, yes. And some karma, so we may do certain activities and we may get the results immediately, and other times we may do activities and we'll get the results later. It's like the example, the story of a farmer that plants the seed and waters it. It takes time, it takes kala. It takes time. But ultimately, eventually, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, eventually it will grow. But our problem is that we want everything now. That's what we're suffering from. Fast food restaurant, easy Uber. It's like, nowadays you don't even have to go shopping. You can just get everything delivered to you. We want convenience. But all those convenience has actually caused the greatest inconvenience. We've become misguided. So Martin Luther King says that, nowadays we have guided missiles, but we have misguided men. So that's actually our problem. That's our unfortunate situation. We've chosen convenience over actually doing the right thing. So Krishna says real renunciation is not actually abstaining from your day-to-day world and distancing yourself from material responsibilities, but actually real renunciation is giving up your selfishness. Real renunciation is actually giving up your greediness. Real renunciation is actually giving up all these negative qualities where you start to think that the whole world is about me, mine, and I. That's actually why we're suffering. But we have to turn me into we. When we're able to transform me into we, then we can come closer to Krishna. No one ever achieves anything great by just working, by just focusing on themselves. We actually achieve something great by helping others. And that's what it is actually. When we turn material from spiritual, so that's what it is. What Krishna is trying to say here is that you don't have to give up your material responsibilities, but if you spiritualize it, then food becomes prasadam. Hunger becomes fasting. Water becomes amrita. Music becomes kirtan. House becomes temple. Action becomes service. Work becomes karma. So you see, Krishna is amazing. Krishna is not saying that give up who you are, because the nature of the soul is to be active. So Krishna is not saying give that up, but Krishna is trying to say spiritualize that. And if you can spiritualize that, then you get real benefit from it. Otherwise, if you just keep to materialism, how much benefit are you really getting? And it is said that in today's world, one person's happiness is the cause of another person's distress. You look at the politicians, you look at anyone, the more we hoard for ourselves, the more others have to suffer. So therefore, Krishna is trying to say, spiritualize your activity. Because, like, imagine, when music becomes kirtan, am I just enjoying? No. Everyone else is enjoying. When food becomes prasadam, am I only enjoying? No. Everyone else is enjoying. Everyone. So spirituality means everyone benefits. Materialism means that only one person benefits, but that's not even a benefit. That's actually suffering. It's like, Prabhupada uses the example, it's like a camel that is chewing on the chewed. But then all it can taste is blood, but it still thinks it's nice. So that's what it is. We think we're benefiting, but actually we're suffering. So, even in our own relationship, spirituality doesn't mean selfishness, but it means selflessness. So even in our own relationship, what we can do is we can think, like, what does it look like when I'm selfish with my partner? And what does it look like when I'm actually selfless with my partner? What does it look like when I'm actually selfish with my parents? And I'm going to let you think, because I've done this, and it's actually groundbreaking. You know, it's like in our relationship, if my partner does this, then the relationship will be perfect. Then I'll be happy. But you know, sometimes it's like we think so much about ourselves. Do we actually take the time to think about others? We're always like, oh my God, you know, my husband doesn't care about me. But have we ever thought maybe for a moment they may be feeling the same way? So actually by giving, we receive. If we're feeling lonely, then why don't we give also association to others? And in that process, we will also feel fulfilled. So they say that actually don't wait for the perfect situation, but create the perfect situation. Don't wait for someone to tick everything, but rather you become the catalyst for that change. And even our relationship with our parents. Like, yes, I'm 18 now, I'm going to go home and conquer the world. But how can you even expect to conquer the world if you haven't conquered the heart of your home? That's impersonalism, shunyavadi. We want to help everyone that we don't know, but we can't even help the people that we do know. We want to be there for everyone, but we can't even be there for the people that have actually raised us, brought us in this world, and have helped us when we were feeling our most lowest. That's shunyavadi, that's impersonalism. And Prabhupada always encouraged his devotees to actually have good relationship with people around, especially parents and family. Even with our friends, how can we be more selfless rather than selfish? We go to our friends like, why are you not ever there for me? But then the question is, why are you actually not there for them? You want everything to be done for you on a nice plate, a silver spoon. But what about you? What are you doing? What are you doing to enhance the relationship? What are you doing to improve the relationship? That's what Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna. And not only that, spirituality, it's actually wonderful. Because what it is that in the material world, when one is successful, what happens? They become proud. My ability, I've done this, I'm incredible, I'm amazing. You know, nowadays there's this, like whenever something goes bad, Krishna, why? But then when everything goes great, yes, Krishna, you're not in the picture. And then now we know the next time you come to the temple is because something went wrong. Because usually when something isn't going wrong, you don't come to the temple. So this is the reality. We want to shift all the blame to Krishna, but all the glories we want ourselves. We want the kingdom of God, but we want it without God. We want Sita, but we want it without Ram. So this is our predicament. So therefore, spirituality, what happens is when you practice Krishna consciousness and you become successful, that success is just an opportunity to become grateful. When you experience failure, you don't get depressed about it. Oh my God, why didn't it happen? Oh my God, it should have been this way, then we should have been that way, then I could have achieved this, but now I haven't achieved anything. Krishna, why? No, you become accepting. Because the thing is, amazingly enough, sometimes you make, like, I never ever pictured myself to be a monk. I never ever imagined myself to live at what is called Bhaktivedanta manner. I never imagined to have so many wonderful friends and family. I never ever in my wildest dream have ever imagined for all this to happen for me. But what it is that I had a plan, I went with a plan, but the plan didn't go as it was supposed to be, but that's fine, because there's always other gifts. So there's this, Prahlad Maharaj, he uses this example, it's like we're focused so much on the broken glasses that we actually miss on the opportunity to see the jewels. We're always focused on our relationships that are not working, our situations that's not as it is, as it's supposed to be. We're so focused on the things that are not working, but have you for a moment paused to reflect on the things that are working in your life? It is actually said that if you can't be grateful for what you have, soon enough it will be what you used to have. There's nothing more unfavorable than an ungrateful person. especially when you are actually more richer than 95% of the population. What do I mean by that? We're all living in the UK. We don't have to think about dirty water. We don't have to think about being stranded on terrible rain or tornado or hurricane. We don't need to be worrying about earthquakes. We don't need to be worrying about tsunami. But there are parts of the world where they are deprived of the wealth that you have. Everyone has a different definition of wealth, but we must bring it back to its simplicity. And the simplicity is you have a place to live, you have something to eat, you have a clean water to drink, you don't have to worry about any animal biting you and killing you. You don't have to think about all of that. So guess what, guys? You are actually the richest person in the world.
Prabhu, so don't you think that those people who are born in that sort of situation, they are bringing their own karma from the previous life as well?
So that's a good question. And my response to that is that philosophy without spirituality can make one lose their humanity. So yes, there may be karma, but we have to be sensitive. And I think in spiritual community, that's sometimes something that we can be lacking. Everything we always resort to karma. But more important than karma is humanity. That's what Krishna is looking at. Don't say it's their karma, but ask yourself, what is your dharma in the situation? That's the most important thing. It's not that I'm spiritual and I know that this is all karma. No, because that makes you hard-hearted. More than karma is dharma. What is your responsibility and duty in all this? And you know what? There was a story once of how a young boy, he was near the seashore of an ocean, and he was picking up these shellfishes that were stranded. And he picked one, threw, then picked another one, threw, and then an old man came to him and was like, "What are you doing, young man?" And he's like, "I'm trying to save all these shellfishes." It's like, are you crazy? You're not going to be able to make a difference to all of their life. And he looked at the old man, he took one shellfish, threw it in the ocean, and he said, "At least I made a difference to that one's life." Don't lose hope. Krishna consciousness is actually about being hopeful, not being hopeless. So we have to ask in every situation, what is my responsibility? What is my dharma?
Also, if we think, oh, it's their karma, they're suffering, then our preaching program is a waste of time. Because we're saying if they're born as whatever else, there's no point in preaching.
Exactly. Oh, definitely. Thank you so much. Yeah. So it's in every situation, it's actually about hearing the unheard. So one thing that I would suggest to every single one of you, because I don't want to just kind of make this into like a philosophical kind of discussion, is first of all, you need to find a mentor. You need to find someone in your life that can help you. When I came to the temple, I never had a vision and a big dream for my life. But by the grace and by the blessings and prayers of so many wonderful teachers and friends and families, I'm finding confidence and belief and faith within myself. And everyone needs that in life. So first of all, my first suggestion is that if you want to manage your life, you need to find a mentor. And let me tell you why. Let me show you why actually. This is why. If you don't find a mentor, then sometimes you will actually confuse things that are urgent for things that are not urgent. Sometimes you will confuse things that are important for things that are not important. It's so difficult to actually see what matters in life when you're actually within the frame. When you're within the pixels. So sometimes you need someone that can pull you a little bit back so then you can see your whole life as it's supposed to be seen and you can make clear and conscious decision. So the first thing is you need to find a mentor. And with that mentor, there's certain criteria. With that mentor, you have to be able to be open with them. There's a difference between transparency and vulnerability. Did you know that? Like nowadays, workers, they go to their bosses and, they may be transparent. Yeah, this is a problem, this I disagree with, I'm going through this. But what about vulnerability? And vulnerability means even being able to share your imperfection, because within that imperfection, you'll find perfection, that perfect opportunity to connect with Krishna. So openness is so important. And the other thing is, not just openness, but if you actually look at Shastra, if you look at scriptures, what does it tell you? Your environment is so important. If you're at a pub, which I'm not saying any of you will be, but I'm just kind of giving an example. You know, you want to be a better version of yourself. If you are in a certain environment that brings the lower nature out of you, then no matter how incredibly inspired you are, how empowered you are, you will actually fall for the lower nature stuff. That's why we tell people it's so important, your environment, your element, and your energy. Who you're with, what you're doing, and also how is that making you feel? What kind of inspiration, what kind of energy is that bringing about in your life? So your environment is so important. No matter how spiritually strong you are, if you're not in the positive and right environment, then you will actually fall back to the way you used to be. And that's what we call in psychology the mirror neurons. If you're aware of it, certain people that you're surrounded with, they actually shape and mold your vision, your character, and even your emotions. So it's so important. Don't ever think that I can conquer it all on my own. You can't. You need people. Like, I remember Kesha Maharaj when he was actually Sutapa. Even then, he used to tell me that I have to make sure that my door, like he stays in his own room, but I have to make sure the door is open. Because then at least I know I'm surrounded by people. I know I'm around people. So there's even people that we call swamis, master of the senses. But when they let it get to their head, then they become servant of the senses. So don't think that you can conquer Maya on your own. If you think Maya can conquer on your own, if you think that you can conquer Maya on your own, then Maya has already conquered you.
Sorry, can I just ask one question linked to positive mindset and being positive? I know my strength is positivity. I've kind of working on it for a very long period of time. I feel when I'm in my negative vibes, which happens, which is the part of life, and the people I deal or whatever, my environment, as I say, I feel it very difficult to keep that, going, or it makes me claustrophobic. And it's very hard, and sometimes I've been told that I'm irritatingly positive, which to them, for their way of life, it is. It's a very difficult thing for me to understand that how could I keep that. It gives me inner peace, my positivity and my faith in God. Not Krishna yet, but my friend Namrata knows I'm more into Sai Ram, and she says whatever it is, it's that faith. I chant on and off, just cooking something, it's in my head, subconsciously going, and I just feel it's very hard to keep that going if you have negativity or situations.
And that's why we tell people association and friendship is so important. The thing is, you won't always find that you're able to control your environment, but that's why friendship is so important. And I'm sure like Hemangi Mataji, Shangovin, Narata Mataji, everyone will tell you actually what's brought them to the level where they're at and why they feel so spiritually strong. It's not because of them, it's because of the friendship that they have. Like sometimes, I may not be in the temple, I may be somewhere else, like in London and stuff like that. That's why when you can see that the mind is flickering and the mind is focused on different things, get back into association. Get back into that friendship. They will inspire you and they will help you. And that's why openness is so important. I'll conclude to one thing, and then maybe if you have questions, because I'm kind of conscious of time. And I know we can kind of talk on and on and on.
This is the last bit, please, the compound effect, please.
Compound effect?
The taste.
Taste. This one. Okay, good. One thing that I would like, there's such a struggle around honesty nowadays. Like I know I was staying in the Brahmacharya ashram for some time, and we're having a very open conversation right now because it's so important that we can find some level of openness and honesty with someone without feeling like they're judging us. Like I know I was living in the Brahmacharya ashram for some time, and there are people that actually struggle with attachment for women, but they're unable to express, they're unable to share, they're unable to reveal their heart because they think I'm going to be judged, I'm going to be criticized. People are not going to see me in the right light, so you have to find people within your circle that you can actually be so totally open with. Actually, Rupa Goswami calls it the 6 loving exchanges, to reveal one's mind in confidential. And he doesn't just say about the person who's revealing their mind, but also the person that's listening. So it's so important that within your circle, I'm sure you have people like that, but sometimes you have to hear it. You have to find friends in your life that you can actually open your heart to.
Without being judgmental.
Exactly. The problem nowadays is that people, like, you know, they go to a social gathering, but it's everything but not social. Because people are not connected. Their hearts are not connected. Their body may be together, but their heart is disconnected. So find people in your life that you can connect heart to heart with. So, and that's where then taste comes in, you know, taste. So I'll conclude, the taste is so important also. How you do anything is how you do everything, they say. So therefore, it's so important. What are you watching? What do you eat? Sometimes people think, it's okay, one time off, it's okay, I'll just kind of lay. But it creates something called the compound effect. And compound effect, we can also call it the snowball effect. Something that you do now, like, hear me this, I'm going to share one final thing with you. You know, sometimes in our community we find devotees that overeat. And they think to themselves, it's okay, this tastes delicious, I'll just eat once, I'll just keep it to once. Then once becomes many times. And many times becomes many, many more times, and what happens before you know it? Diabetes, obesity, so many cancer, diseases, it's all building up. So now imagine your life is like that. Every bad habit that you do is like eating an unhealthy food. And you may not pay the price today, but I promise you, I know people as young as like 10 years old, 11, 12, 15, whatever, because they made the wrong choices in life, they're suffering from it at such a young age. So if you do unhealthy habits, then it becomes toxic to your life. If you do positive habits, then it's like actually taking the toxin out. And then you have more empty spaces to fill it up with positivity. So my suggestion to you guys is, don't slip. Don't think to yourself, it's just a one-time affair. Because a one-time affair becomes a lifetime of regret. It becomes a lifetime consequences. Be on top of your health. Be on top of your spirituality. Be on top of your relationship with Krishna. Because if you're not on top of it, then Maya will be on top of you.
It's already, isn't it? The
Maya's
Maya's illusion.
So that is the summary. And so one other thing, I keep saying one other thing.
We don't mind, Prabhu.
The last thing I would also say is journaling is important. You know, we have to become, actually, Keshmar says this beautiful thing, our movement, actually we have a lot of writing warriors. Our movement is the movement of writing. If you actually look at every single one of our acharyas, and you look at even our gurus, we're actually the movement of writing. You know, we're the pen warriors. Not the dagger, not the sword, not the gun, the pen warriors. And they say, what do they say? The pen is mightier than the sword. Because with a gun, with any weapons, you may be able to utilize it and harm someone. But actually what you write, it lives on even after you're gone. So it's so important to journal. Because what journaling does is that you have the false ego. So there's this concept, ego. People, like when I first came to the temple and someone said to me, yeah, ego is a thing. I was like, yeah, but I'm trying to get rid of my false ego. It's like, no, you don't have to get rid of your false ego. You need to just embrace your true ego. So that's important. It's not that, people are trying so hard to get rid of their ego. In spiritual communities nowadays, you find, let go of your ego, let go of your ego. But you can't let go of your ego because ego is identity. But you have your true ego, which is the real you, and you have the false ego, which is the false you. So what journaling does is you're basically kind of mapping out your life and you're navigating from the false ego to the true ego. And then when you navigate from the false ego to the true ego, then you can actually make decisions and choices based on the heart and not just always the head. Not always just on the mind, which is always reactive, but based on intelligence and based on the soul. So it's so important to journal. And what you can journal is like my observation of the world. So sometimes we see so many things, but we don't realize the influence and the impression that it's leaving on us. So we can write it down. What have I seen today? What have I experienced in the world today? What does this mean? How has it impacted me? What is how have I been interacting with my friends today? By writing all these down, then you can actually look at it. And then you can become the editor of your life. You can start to crop, delete, add, take away, plus. You can actually become the editor, the author of your life. But you have to journal. And Krishna will be the final person to kind of go through your life one more time and be like, I'm actually very happy with this person. Or that person, whatever. But yeah, so thank you so much. I hope that was helpful. I hope it was practical. If anyone has any question, otherwise we can kind of go on to a tour because, yeah.
I just have one question. Sorry
Sure.
to keep you. Is ego also equal to self-pride and self-respect?
It's not just kind of concluded to that, no.
So if when you're trying to manage
When you're trying to go to the true
your
ego.
self-respect and your pride, are you labeled as being egoistic?
No, so that's the funny thing. Actually, the thing is, there's actually nothing wrong with being like,
Oh, Prabhuji's just got something now.
I'm going to actually relate this beautiful poem by someone called Narottam Das Thakur. So I'm going to show you something very beautiful, and then maybe this will help. Because we think that anger, hatred, all these things is actually bad. Okay. So, what Narottam Das Thakur actually says is that, we usually say that lust, anger, greed, all these things are negative. And sometimes people may even say ego is negative. But listen to this beautiful writing by Narottam Das Thakur. I will engage lust, anger, greed, illusion, madness, envy, and pride in appropriate ways. And by defeating these enemies, I will feel happiness in my heart as I peacefully worship Govinda. So here, listen to this. I will engage lust by offering it in Krishna's service. Anger I will direct towards those who are envious of the devotees. I will be greedy to hear the topics of Hari in the association of devotees. I will feel illusioned without achieving my worshipable Lord. I will be maddened while singing the glories of Krishna. In this way, I will engage these enemies in their proper place. So we can actually engage ego in its proper place. There is nothing wrong with being confident. There's nothing wrong. Sometimes, even me, sometimes it's like when people, you look so good today. Yeah, I know I look good. And people think that's egoistical because it's based on their insecurity. But if you know that you're doing it for the right intention and the right purpose to use it in Krishna's service, then actually that's spiritual. If I wasn't confident, then I wouldn't be able to share. I would be selfish. So confidence is actually your nature, as long as you engage it in Krishna's service. And you know that confidence ultimately belongs to Krishna.
Prabhuji, could you briefly talk about the three modes of material nature, please, because it affects many of us.
Yeah, so then, the thing is we live in this world, we perform karma, and it produces certain type of deva, destiny, but ultimately we must also realize that within all this, there's the system called guna. So if you don't know what guna is, it means the modes of material nature. Sometimes there's this interesting, I keep looking for it and I can't seem to find it, because I know I saw it once where Prahlad Maharaj, I think at least, sometimes people know what is the right thing to do, but they still do the wrong thing. What do you call that? That's actually the influence, the mode of material nature. So there's ignorance, there's tamas, there's raja, and there's sattva. There's ignorance, there's passion, and there's goodness. So therefore, when we live in this world, it's not that we just perform karma. And that's why I say to you, it's so important the environment that you're in. It's not that just you perform activity, but there's also influences. I don't know, red, blue, green, the RGB, when you kind of go to the printer and then you kind of put these inks. But then out of these three inks, you get so many variety of colors. That's like the guna. Every action, every activity, everything that you do in life is actually influenced by one of these energy. And we can try and be a little bit more conscious based on who we surround ourselves with and where we surround ourselves in. And when we do that, then actually that very environment inspires us. And Prabhupada said that it's not that we're trying to be in a mode of goodness, because remember, mode of goodness is still mode of goodness. It's within the material world, but we're trying to achieve pure sattva, pure goodness. That's spiritual. So that's why my recommendation to all of you, and I keep reminding myself this, is so important. Be conscious. Every person in your life, they're like either depositing money or they're taking money out of your life. You know, they're either giving you or they're taking. And the thing is, you don't want to end up with zero balance. You want to make sure that whoever's in your life, that you're giving to them, but you still have enough money in your account. You still have enough inspiration, enough empowerment, enough encouragement, enough vision in your life. Don't sacrifice that for anyone. Krishna doesn't want you to sacrifice yourself. Krishna actually wants you to look after yourself. Because when you can look after yourself, then you can actually run towards him. Otherwise, you can't do anything.
What's that one that says thinking more of yourself and less humility?
Yeah, so humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking less about yourself.
That's the difference.
Yeah. So yes, the modes of material nature are there, but we can utilize them. And we can utilize it based on what you eat. So, you know, they say that there's certain food you should eat, certain food you shouldn't eat. Like you should eat, like, you know, fresh vegetables and fruits. You know, ideally if they're grown, that's why the temple is the most ideal. We grow our own vegetables, we grow our own fruits, and we prepare it here. But then there's also food in the mode of passion. Like, you know, like, I know when I first came to the temple, the prasadam was just so spicy. And actually that's not ideal. For something to be so spicy, it's not ideal. It's actually not healthy at all. Too much spice is not good. And then there's also then food that you may save from the next day, or 2 days, or 3 days. That's ignorance. That's food. But then also your speech. Krishna calls the austerity of speech. You know, sometimes we may we may think that we're saying the right thing, but are we the right people to communicate that message? That's where relationship errors come from. That's where familiarity comes from. So therefore Krishna says, austerity of the speech, it should be beneficial. It should be sweet. You know, it shouldn't actually do any harm to anyone. Your purpose of talking is not to harm someone, it's to empower someone. Socrates gives this beautiful example when someone came to him and was about to gossip. Is this beneficial? Is this true? And can I do something about it? If you can't, then why gossip? You're wasting time. Don't waste time. Time is not something you want to waste because you only have very limited time in this world.
We say wasted time can't be recycled.
Exactly.
I tell
It can't be
my
recycled.
children.
Yeah,
We
definitely.
cannot recycle it.
Prabhuji, one more question, please, Your Honor. Not question, but a comment. Talking about relationships, the message in the Bhagavad Gita about what Lord Krishna said, what sort of relationships we can have with him. So if you could just talk a little bit about that.
With Krishna.
Yes. Just
That's like some deep topic.
Yeah.
But we can have all kind of. So the thing is, you know, in this world that we're living in today, like I know when I grew up, like okay, I'll share a little bit now. I grew up in a Muslim community, and I know that a relationship with God as a Muslim was very one way. It wasn't like you could see God in any other way. And actually, most religion is like that. God isn't very dynamic the way it is in Krishna consciousness. Krishna is very dynamic. So we can have different kind of relationship with Krishna, but that comes from japa. That comes from good chanting. This is like a topic beyond the topic. So I'm just going to touch a little bit upon because I don't really feel like many of us are qualified yet, but I'll just touch a little bit. That actually a good japa, a good sadhana, a good service attitude, at one point what will happen is that your relationship with Krishna can then be revealed. You may start to realize that there's a certain kind of service that you like doing. And that is a service related to the spiritual world. But that takes time. That definitely takes time. And it may not just take in one life, it may take many lives. So I think what it is, the most important thing is we shouldn't so much worry about what our position in the spiritual world is or what kind of relationship that we can have with Krishna there, but rather we should just nicely be engaged in service. We should just do a good japa, a good service, and be friendly and be kind to everyone. And not just kind to devotees, but also kind to people that may not be a devotee. Because remember, everyone's a devotee. We shouldn't make that kind of discrimination, because then Krishna actually becomes upset with us. Because remember, everything is part and parcel of Krishna. So when you go to your workplace, don't think, oh, this person's a non-devotee. Or you go to the streets, like, oh my God, those people in the pub, they're so sinful, they're non-devotee. No, everyone is part and parcel of Krishna. How does it make us any better if we start putting people up and putting people down? That is not our level. That is not something we're qualified to do. Maybe the spiritual teacher may be able to, but not us. So actually, a devotee is equal to everyone. And Prabhupada was that. Prabhupada was equal to everyone. And when we can do this, then one day, by the mercy of Guru, by the mercy of devotees, by the mercy of Krishna, our Svarup will slowly be revealed to us. But Svarup means our identity. Our identity will be revealed to us, but that takes time. We've taken many births, but I pray one day we can get there. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So I'm just conscious of time. Maybe we can start the tour now. And one thing, not just me.